"We will never put real-life murderers in the game," is a quote from the devs I've heard repeatedly by many people. Whether this quote is real or not, I'm far too lazy to look up, but what I do know is that this quote has led to a lot of infighting amongst the community, mostly from people who lack the ability to pay attention to what's being said, or my YouTube comments section. What I gather from the quote is we aren't going to be having any real-life killers in the game, not that there can't be killers who are inspired by real-life killers. I mean, when you think about it, if a horror movie isn't based off some supernatural shit, it's more than likely going to draw inspiration from real-life events. I suspect this quote comes from people asking for someone like Jack the Ripper to come to the game, a request no doubt brought upon by the complete removal of the real-life weight from the Ripper's actions, as he has, in modern society at least, reached almost folklore status, in the way he is portrayed in media and across the world. Perhaps I'll commandeer my stand-up comedy/social commentary channel and do a full breakdown on this phenomenon. I'll let you guys know. In any case, this kind of leads us into discussions about the Doctor, a character who is said, or confirmed, I'm not sure, to be loosely based off the real-life Doctor Yang Young-Zin, or however you pronounce that, a controversial Chinese psychiatrist who used electroconvulsive therapy without anesthetics or without relaxants on alleged internet addicts to cure them, quote-unquote, of their addiction. Well, today I plan to dive into the Doctor, the lore, themes, power, gameplay, perks, add-ons, and more. Check your screen or the description for time codes now. And remember, this is a largely auditory experience, so feel free to throw this on your phone or a second monitor or the family big screen, whatever. And let's take a look at Herman Carter, otherwise known as the Doctor. The first thing I want to address is the fact that there are actually two initial lore entries for the Doctor. One is far more detailed and used to exist on Behavior's website, and the second is what is actually in the game's entry. For some unknown reason, instead of having the intricate, in-depth lore entry, Behavior opted to reduce a large 6-paragraph backstory into an oversimplified, badly written, badly paced 3-paragraph rendition of the original concept. I wonder now, was there ever a time where all those 2-paragraph backstories actually had long, in-depth ones that were far better? The new one just feels off, and if I only had that one at my disposal, I'd call this another lazy, we have a backstory for the sake of a backstory entries. Instead, I'm left baffled as to why Behavior thought the watered-down version was better to keep in the game and have available to the general populace. The old version feels complete and ready to be presented, and the new version feels rushed and pulled out of someone's ass, like they wrote it in a weekend. Going from the original to the tome, this is the first time the lore has really felt complete and mostly coherent since I first started this series. I do have one gripe, however. While everything provided does a lot to flesh out Herman as this psycho with an Einstein complex and severe psychopathy, it also has a minor flaw. The original story made it seem like the government had no idea how utterly deranged Herman was, while the tomes make it very clear that Herman is the absolute worst and the government knew it. In fact, it was the entire reason they hired him. They taped him going Dr. Kevorkian on his peers. They watched him make a fucking sleeper agent out of his partner. They saw him unplug a lamp and make an electroshock tool out of it, peel back skin, and more. And then they went all surprise Pikachu face when they went to Leary's and found Herman absolutely mutilated everyone? Well, ahoy, you right bunch of ninnies. I'd say the psycho given unfeathered access to other humans with larger and more expensive equipment led to even more psycho behavior. You probably should have predicted that, or should I buy you a crystal ball next time? We're still in this era of not being told how the characters ended up in the fog, but I'll give you a small pass for now, as I'm guessing it would just come down to the line, "A black fog crept into the lab," or some shit like that. That being said, I did greatly enjoy the lore. It's nice to finally have a killer who's just a straight up bastard. No trauma, no excuses, no nothing. He's just a straight up villain with a love for torture. Herman is deliciously evil, enjoying every moment of violent acts he does, all under the guise of interrogation or knowledge seeking. He only cares for how much he can put one person through, and that's a breath of fresh air. Sometimes it's good to have a villain who's just a villain for villain's sake. For the Doctor's lore, I give Behavior a 4.8 out of 5, deducting points for idiot government officials and removing the in-depth lore from the game. Another mostly fantastic job done by Behavior. The Doctor's themes fit incredibly nicely into the character, his power inflicting various minor effects over time as he tortures the survivors, causing visual and auditory hallucinations, messing up the focus with random skill checks, quote-unquote paralyzing them so they can't vault or drop pallets and windows. On top of that, every time you pass through a hallucination, whether that's a visage of the Doctor or a fake pallet, you hear the Doctor laugh in the distance, no matter how far away he is, as a constant reminder that you were in his world, playing his game as his puppet. I honestly love the thematics of playing against the Doctor as well. The actual gameplay is another thing, but thematics-wise, it really does invoke a heavy feeling of going insane. Gameplay-wise, I'm also going insane, but again, that's the next section. Mori-wise, I think it fits the Doctor fairly well. The huge shock killing the survivor as the Doctor's checking his work before laughing his ass off. This is also something that plays well into the Doctor thematically. His sound design is insanely well done. The constant buzzing of his electricity and his chuckles as he shocks and hits survivors, the heavy thunk of his weapon as it lands, and even the subtle slap as his hit cooldown. Overall, I just love everything about this character. His perks also work extremely well, each of them representing the fear he instills in people and his hunger for torture. But similar to the lore, I have one minor gripe. In the Doctor's add-ons, there is this theme of procedures, medical files, and more, which is actually really great. I'm glad that we're moving away from this whole, this is just a part of the equipment, or this is just a part of the power type thing, and moving on into lore-based add-ons. But then, quite randomly, there are 3 chess pieces spread throughout the lot, with 2 of the chess pieces being his fucking iridescence. I scoured the lore, trying to find even one line referencing a love of chess, and nothing about chess seems to exist. There's just nothing there, and I don't fully understand why these chess pieces are there. For themes, I'll give Behavior a 4.9 out of 5. That chess thing just completely confuses me.
If you're a fan of Dungeons & Dragons, then check out my other channel, Kaiser the Bard, where I do things like discuss the game, give you DM and player tips, and more. We'll see you over there. Link is in the description.
This might quite possibly be one of the most intricate powers in Dead by Daylight. Settle in, because this is going to get long and probably kind of boring. The Doctor's power is threefold. Passive, Madness. Madness has 3 tiers, indicated by the static on survivor portraits. Horizontal lines is tier 1, vertical lines is tier 2, and complete white noise is tier 3. At a base, each of the tiers steadily increase in the amount and severity of effects. Random skill checks, Vishes of the Doctor, and eventually becoming incapacitated and screaming constantly, revealing your location. Add-ons can be used to augment the madness, adding fake terror radiuses, fake red stains, fake pallets, and more, overall increasing the amount of mindfuckery they cause. At tier 3, survivors can spend 12 seconds snapping out of it, quote-unquote, to reduce their tier 3 back to tier 1. But how do you inflict madness? Well, I'm glad you asked, hypothetical viewer. Now let's get into the Doctor's active powers, Shock Therapy, and Static Blast. For Shock Therapy, hold the right click to charge and release a 12-meter shockwave that comes out of you in a cone. Survivors hit by this shockwave cannot drop pallets or perform the vault action for 2.5 seconds. This also causes them to scream, interrupting any action, and inflicts them with 0.5 madness tiers. Static Blast is the second ability, which is a giant shockwave originating from the Doctor and covering the entirety of his terror radius. This inflicts 1 tier of madness and makes all survivors scream and reveal their location. This ability has a cooldown of 60 seconds flat. With this power, the Doctor falls into the category of a split pressure killer. His main strength is causing chaos among survivors, consistently using his Static Blast to tear up survivors he isn't chasing, and making their lives harder while slowly whittling down the survivor he is chasing by closing the distance on them. It's important to remember, however, that despite the anti-loop he has, he's still an M1 killer, and his anti-loop isn't that strong. Your shock therapy has a delay on its detonation, and this can sometimes allow survivors to make pallets or windows if you don't time your blast correctly. The Doctor's skill floor is actually fairly high, mostly due to this delay, as it takes a while to really get the timing down. Another thing making him rather difficult to pick up is understanding how to use the screams to track survivors and put pressure when needed. You have a huge map presence, and you also have decent anti-loot, but the counter to Doctor involves basically pre-running and insta-vaulting everything, and if a survivor knows this, your life becomes instantly harder. The Doctor's tier is B. He's quite strong, but he suffers from his M1 status, and survivors understanding how to play against him unfortunately cripples him a lot more than you think it would. Before we get into perk recommendations, there is one major thing I want to cover: Impossible Skill Check Doctor. I'm going to be making a video on unique builds in the game and how I wish they happened more often, but for now, I want you to know that Skill Check Doctor is quite possibly one of my favorite ways to play the game. On Doctor, you use the perks Distressing, Unnerving Presence, and Huntress Lullaby. Your fourth perk can be anything from Corlophobia to Merciless Storm. With Double Calm add-ons, this makes for a build that works uniquely with Doctor. Doctor's Madness mechanic makes it to where skill checks show up in random places and move forward and backwards, combined with perks that make skill checks harder, and you create a really cool build that, while not incredibly strong, offers a new way to play the game that no other killer can provide. While you could theoretically throw this build on Wesker, he doesn't provide the same skill check effect base kit. This makes Doctor unique in this aspect, and it's one of the main reasons why I play him. I personally love this, and I wish more killers had this unique style to them. On to perk recommendations. Avoid any perks that make you undetectable. It shuts off an entire part of your kit. That being the Static Blast. You are in a pretty unique position to defend hexes, given your Static Blast can interrupt people cleansing and even make them incapacitated so they can't cleanse at all. Your bread and butter are going to be Terror Radius perks. Interestingly, as of writing this video, Oblivious does not cut off your power, so Plaything can actually be pretty good slowdown. Aura perks are okay, but two special mentions are Zinchin Tactics and I'm All Ears, both allowing you to understand the moves that the survivors are making and pre-shock them before they get to resources. Overall, the Doctor can work with most perks. Any perks slowing survivor progress down that work off your Terror Radius or have to deal with skill checks will be far more powerful than you can imagine. As for playing against the Doctor, this is where I kind of get annoyed. While I do enjoy the thematics of the Doctor having to pre-run and pre-drop things are boring and often lead to mediocre chases, you have to unlearn a lot of looping habits, and I just get so bored when I play against him. He also exists in a similar place to the Clown for me, where I don't really know what to do against him outside of the pre-run, pre-drop. Like, if he ends up catching me away from a pallet or a window, I just kind of eat shit, and I don't know if it's a me problem or an inherent problem with the Doctor. Overall, I give the Doctor a 4.5 for power and gameplay. A unique power with unique playstyles and overall a very good design. It's not perfect, there's small issues, mostly on the playing against him side, but overall I think he's pretty alright and I do enjoy him. I don't really have much to say about the Doctor's perks. They're all just kind of solid, no real outliers, nothing of special note except for one kind of sort of. Monitor and Abuse makes your Terror Radius smaller when outside of chase and larger when in chase, creating a stealth fear dynamic. Pretty basic, that's all I have to say about it. Overcharge puts a difficult skill check on a gen after you kick it, and then gradually speeding up the regression rate from 85% to 130% over the course of 30 seconds. Unfortunately, this perk is actually kind of shit just due to the over-nerf it received during the Call of Brine Overcharge Eruption combo execution, where instead of nerfing just the problem perk of Eruption, and only Eruption, they bizarrely hit Overcharge in Call of Brine as well. I say make this perk 100% regression as a base rate and increase it to 200% over 30 seconds. Remember, 100% regression is one charge every 4 seconds, meaning that 200% is one charge every 2 seconds. So for every 2 seconds the gen regresses, survivors have to spend 1 second repairing it, and I think that's fine. Finally, we have Overwhelming Presence, which causes all items used within your Terror Radius to have a 100% reduced efficiency. And this is really funny when combined with the new perk Weave Attunement and Lightborn against a flashlight user, as one attempt at a save can straight up make them drop their flashlight because it depletes just so fast. For perks, I give Behavior a 4.0 out of 5, give Overcharge's buff back, and they'd be a perfect array of balanced, creative, and useful. I was honestly surprised to see so many good add-ons for the Doctor. A good chunk sit in the S tier because of how ungodly useful they are. His Calm and Discipline add-on trees adding larger tear radiuses and quicker detonation of the shock therapy are his bread and butter. His Eries are some of the best in the game on top of all that sheer creativity in some of these, like changing the shape of the power, or even the effects of the Eerie Queen, which allows the shock to spread from survivor to survivor, is amazing. Overall, I love the add-on design. There are some pretty useless ones, like the ones that change the shape. Even if they are creative, they aren't recommended. And some mediocre ones, like the ones that show auras of survivors who tear up. The range extension ones are good, but not great. Overall, a solid set of add-ons. I'd give a 5 out of 5 for a combination of balance, creativity, and usefulness. The Doctor's final score is the highest we've ever gotten on this series, so far with a total of 4.64 out of 5. Everything about the Doctor is near perfect, having very minor flaws, if any. In my opinion, he's just one of the most rounded, creative, and fascinating killers in the game. A blueprint for well-designed killers, even more so than the Huntress. I enjoy him from top to bottom, and all around I think this is a killer behavior could use more of. Maybe future killers will reach this point as well. For now, I leave you guys with the question of what do you think? Let me know down below. And as always, a great big special thank you to my channel members listed on screen now. If you want to find out how to become a channel member today and get awesome perks like seeing videos early, merch discount codes, and more, then please click that join button down below. I love you guys so much, and I will see you in the next one.
Need more Kaiser in your life? Well, I've got you covered. Check out my second channel, DeKaiser Extras, where I upload full gameplays, stream compilations, me reacting to your Dead by Daylight clips, and more. We also upload a daily short with all the greatest clips from stream. We'll see you over there. Link is in the description.